Hello and welcome to the Elephant and Bear podcast, the show dedicated to sharing interesting tales from around Coventry and Warwickshire. I'm your host Neil, and in today's show we welcome Toby Trinder, who plays for Coventry Rugby Club. Toby, please can you introduce yourself?
So as you said, my name's Toby Trinder. I'm 24, play for Coventry Rugby Club, originally from Ipswich, but living in Northampton still at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. So obviously you play for Coventry Rugby Club and you're not for the area, and we'll discuss a little bit about that later. How long have you been with Coventry Rugby Club, Toby?
Yeah, so I started, I used to play for Northampton Saints, and so I originally first played for Coventry in the 2019-2020 season, came on loan, and then signed for Coventry in the middle of lockdown 2020. So I've been there for a good 3 years now.
Yeah, and it must have been very kind of strange during the lockdown period, being a sportsman at that time.
Yes, it was. It was tough, obviously, on uncertainty of different things like funding, the financial stability of the club. Obviously, I lost my job at Northampton, so that was a bit of a tough period, and then signed for Coventry. Then from a rugby point of view, it was very much for the first while with Coventry, we were waiting to hear from the powers that be from the government in terms of what funding we were going to be getting and when the league's going to be starting. And I remember there was constant talk about meetings. There was going to be a meeting next week, and then it was postponed to the week after of the chairmans and those that are given the grants and that kind of thing. And everything just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. But we started training back again. I think it was about October of 2020, and that was very much small groups of 6. We'd go in, we'd do like a sanitized, socially distanced stretching session for an hour, 45 minutes an hour. Then we go into staying our 6s into the gym that was all sanitized and that kind of thing, and then back out on the pitch for pretty much, because like we couldn't pass the ball because of the germs and that kind of thing. Like one of us would have had to pass it and sanitize, then caught it, and it wasn't going to work. So it was very much just pretty plain and simple, just running up and down the pitch and running laps of the pitch and different cones and different times and that sort of thing. Whilst, as I say, this kind of possible start date of the season just kept constantly getting pushed back and pushed back. So it was interesting times. It feels weird bringing it back up again, talking about it. It seems like ages ago now.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, glad it's all kind of over. Rugby isn't designed for social distancing, is it?
No, it's not 100%. And we still had a scare. Well, we didn't have a scare. We had that period. It was about Christmas last year for a month when that other variant came back. It was kind of, we got to the season started September, whenever it was last season, and got a few months into the season, and it was kind of starting to become a bit of a thing of the past. And then all of a sudden we were hit with these this new variant coming in, and we were back into trying to test twice a day and that kind of thing, and fixtures on the line. But yeah, haven't had seems like a thing of the past now. So
I think fingers crossed it stays that way. Now, as well as your role as a player for Cov Rugby, you also have another role. Can you tell the listeners about that as well, please, Toby?
Yeah. So being specific, my official role is commercial sales executive at the club, and that was something that Matt Cannon, who's our general manager, he came into the club January time, just past, and kind of identified in the past that the club's probably, and it's probably a bit of a thing that's occurs through a lot of rugby teams, a lot of sports, is when it comes to sponsors, kind of getting money, trying to attract sponsors and getting money off them, and then never really speaking to them again, not really having a great relationship. So it was his idea to get a player to do what I do, to kind of hopefully bridge that gap. So the main role is essentially trying to attract new sponsors into the club. One of our goals as a club is financial sustainability. So we don't. John Sharp, who's our chairman, he's done, especially through COVID, he's done so much for us financially, helping us out when funding was cut and that kind of thing. But the idea now is we're trying to rebuild and get back, more sponsors in, so the club can be less reliant on him, essentially, as we get down the line. And then on top of that, it's creating that sort of better relationship with current sponsors we've got. So, just little things like after a game, a quick handshake and a drink with a sponsor or fan at the bar, or with player sponsors, kind of top of the to-do list at the moment is I'm going around some of the player sponsors, arranging visits with them. So just going to their business and having a coffee and a catch up. And it's not really too serious. It's just talking rugby, to be honest, which is kind of the beauty of having the dual role, is I can kind of talk a little bit of the serious stuff if we need to, but it's just bringing the player there and talking rugby.
No, that sounds good. And how is it kind of having kind of half your time on the pitch and in the gym, and then half of your time in the office? So you coping with that?
Yeah, I at the moment I'm really enjoying it. I found in the past, especially when I was a little bit younger at Northampton, you get sort of 3/4 of the way through the season, and obviously the game time builds up, and you're into 15, 20, 25 games come February, March, April. So they're sore bodies. You're playing a lot of minutes at the weekend, so the training days actually become a little bit shorter. We can be done by 12:30, 1 o'clock some days, and I get home at say 2 o'clock and not really be doing anything. I'd actually probably have a little bit more energy because like I said, training was going down, and I kind of sit there like not really doing a lot. You kind of turn into a bit of a rugby vegetable where all you're doing is just previewing and reviewing training and clips and running your head into a brick wall without actually doing a lot else with your life. So for now, at the moment, and I'm sure it'll continue for the foreseeable, is I'm really enjoying having that kind of using my brain in different ways, basically. And the group we've got in the office is a great group. It's a young group, and there's we all get on really well as friends as well. So we have a good bit of banter in the office as well. So it's not just have a shower after training, have some food, and just get suited up and sit down, headphones in, not talk to anyone. It's quite relaxed. It's a good vibe in the office as well.
No, fantastic. And obviously Coventry Rugby Club is very much a community club. So how important is the community to Cov Rugby Club?
Yeah, I'd say it's massive, and probably could potentially even go so far as to saying that the club is probably nothing without the community. Within reason, we pride ourselves on trying to be a community club. As I say, from a playing point of view, we're quite big on finishing the game, showering up, and then we have our food. Our post-match food with the opposition is all in the bar where the fans are post-match, and just going around speaking to fans from that point of view, and just trying to mingle in and just try and get a real sense of the community. Then obviously we have our community department as well that do a lot of outreach stuff in the city. So they're kind of a lot of the rugby stuff they do is partly focused on just our outreach, getting our name out there. Trying to be the pride of the city from a rugby point of view. But partly also kind of trying to bring through the next generation of Coventry players. Obviously, we've got to start from somewhere, I suppose. So some of the kind of things they do is they do a lot of rugby camps, especially over half term. I was at Berkswell and Balsall Rugby Club yesterday with a couple of other players. They had a big minis festival, which we normally attend to, hand around flyers, that kind of thing, try and mingle in with some of the parents and the coaches and just try and get our name out there. They also do like match day experiences for the local club. So, for example, at a home game, we could have, for example, Berkswell and Balsall, their youth and junior section, they come in a few hours before a game. Normally some of the, whether it's injured lads or people not selected, like the non-players on the match day, we'll do some coaching with them. And they do a bit of a guard of honour for us as we run out for the game and that sort of thing. And they do master classes as well. So I think I've got one coming up. It's going to be a front row. It's super exciting, dark arts of the scrum master class. But we have passing and kicking and scrum half master classes and that kind of thing as well. And then they're very much linked in with the foundation, which is the kind of more the charity side of it. So they're funded by the government, and then Charter Savings Banks, they're quite a big sponsor of the foundation as well. They do kind of initiatives like rugby and reading. I did a visit to a school in the summer where they've just reopened their library, which was kind of helped and funded by the foundation. And then they do another thing called Project 500 as well, which is kind of the more, I wouldn't say not vulnerable, the kind of less well off kind of children in life. We try and get them in for a couple of days a week if they're not at school, and we give them some free food vouchers and food packages, and they kind of have a bit of a fun day at the club doing rugby, not just specific to rugby, but they'll be out on the pitch, throwing a ball around, whether it is rugby or basketball, and different team games and that kind of thing. So trying to give them a bit of an outlet and something to do whilst helping them out as well.
Please excuse this brief interruption. This podcast is made possible by Plan with Neil. Plan with Neil is an independent financial advisor from Coventry, helping people improve their financial well-being by supporting them with retirement planning, life insurance, and much more. Please check out the website planwithneil.com and book a free discovery session today. Now, back to the podcast. No, fantastic. Sounds like lots of kind of different things from children to other areas as well, which is
that is a good point. Actually, is I forgot to mention as well. They do walking rugby as well on a Wednesday evening, so that's over 50s. So we do try and get kind of all ends of the age range down, and that's just again kind of something for the elderly, whether they're fans or not, to come down and throw a ball around and have there's tea and coffee after it. It's a bit of a social event as well.
Yeah, sounds like a good social event, and I saw that for every kind of sale of any of your shirts as well, money goes to the foundation as well with that. So it's very much focused on building that up as much as possible and giving back as much as possible. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, obviously, you mentioned earlier that you're originally from Ipswich and you've been living in Northampton, but I believe you're moving to the area soon. How is that going?
Yes, stressful. We're onto our third house now. I think the first one we looked at was being sold by 2 estate agents. So we had an offer accepted on it without really realising that the other estate agency would still essentially trying to sell the house as well. And we ended up getting gazumped on that. They gave us short notice anyway. That fell through. And then second one we were looking at was it was actually on Rowley's Green Lane, running like the no through road that leads into the back of the CBS arena. That just wasn't going anywhere, and just with it's tough being a rugby player because I re-signed for Coventry in the summer this year, so I've got 2 years on my contract, and you never really know where you're going to be for much longer than 2 or 3 years with rugby. So it was probably the ideal time to try and buy now and get in now and at least make the most of that 2 years I know I've got, and then obviously what will be in the future. And this Rowley's Green Lane one just wasn't going anywhere. I think that we were stuck at the bottom of the chain. The seller just weren't. I don't think they'd found anywhere to go, so it wasn't looking like we were going to get into the house until the new year, which then kind of leaves a bit of a weird 18 months, less than that kind of period in the house, which just didn't really make much sense. But this new one we found is hopefully getting in within the next few weeks. This one was sold. We were going to. The reason it didn't complete was because the buyer couldn't get in quick enough for the seller. So all the searches and all the kind of solicitors, all the boring stuff, is hopefully we've kind of walked in a step down the line. So
fantastic.
We're just waiting for a couple of inquiries to be answered, and then fingers crossed we should be getting a completion date hopefully pretty soon. But looking forward to spending a lot less time on the M1 or M6.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously the advantage, kind of for the future, is that obviously Coventry is kind of well located. If you do move on in the future as well. So it works quite well actually. Like my mum and dad, they try and come to pretty much every game, and it's from Ipswich to Cov. It's probably just over 2 hours, which isn't ideal, but it's not too bad. Sometimes they stay with me and my partner after a game and we make a little weekend out of it, but it's not a difficult journey. You just jump on the M6 and the A14 and, within 2 hours you're back home. Yeah, so it sounds better than your journey that you had at the weekend that you were telling me before the episode, where it took you, was it however many hours to get to South London? 4 hours to get from Butts Park to into Richmond. Which is painful, but done. Well, it was worth it because you won, didn't you? So exactly, fantastic. Okay, now in terms of Coventry and Warwickshire, is there any people that you associate with the area, and who would that be and why? I had I'm going to go. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to go quite niche with this one. Okay, go for it. So we've got
a bit of a group of people at the club. So we've got Ron Kempen, who's our kit man, Brian King, who is that's a good point. He doesn't really have a role. He just he's
just there.
Yeah, he kind of comes in from sort of 7:30 till 9-10 o'clock every morning. And I think he just loves being around the lads. But he's done a lot for the club financially. Just little things like helping. Like we needed some water bottles the other week, some for training, so he bought them, and away fixtures. He's got his own van, so he takes time off his work, and obviously seeing his grandkids, he drives the van down with all the kit and the tackle pads and that sort of thing. And then Eric, who's our stadium manager, there's a little group called Eric's Army. So they're all retired. They come into training on a Thursday, and they come to all our games. They come to pretty much every away game as they can, and they're there on a Thursday. They just do like kind of the unseen jobs, like litter picking around the stadium, making sure the bins are sorted, mingling in with the lads, that kind of thing. And I suppose the reason I thought of them is for us as a club, they're probably the heartbeat of the club. Without those kind of people, it's just any old club. And that's something as I've spent more time with Cov and doing the office stuff now, spending more time in the city, meeting more people, as that seems to be a bit of a running theme of there's so many people in the city and in Coventry and Warwickshire that care about the place and so proud to at least be a part of something. So if I was to ever, the reason I thought of them is I just think they kind of symbolise the club and they symbolise the city.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, the unseen heroes that are kind of working away in the background. Fantastic. In terms of your favourite place in the area, what would be the favourite place for yourself?
I've had a couple of visits to Leamington Spa. My partner, she decided to go on a bit of a sporadic shopping day there in the summer, and we've been there a couple of times since. But I think that's a really nice area. You can see there's like so much history around there, and some of the buildings are so nice. There's a few nice walks you can do and some nice shops around there and that kind of thing. We've had a good couple of days out there. Yeah,
definitely. Leamington's the place where, like I say, you park up, loads of kind of nice shops, but there's green space, there's walks and stuff, and just being walking around the areas, very nice. Fantastic. And are there any kind of hidden gems at all in the area that you'd recommend?
There's a good one for us, a coffee shop called Myrtles, which is in Helsden. Obviously, it's near the club, but for us boys especially, it's a bit of a staple for kind of a post-training catch-up, whether it's a bit of a sap after training or just kind of talking anything rugby or de-stressing or whatever. That's kind of our bit of a go-to, and anyone that's not doing anything after training, they're probably in Myrtles having a coffee and a chat. But they're really nice. We get on really well with with Amy, who's the owner there, and the food's really nice and it's good coffee as well, which I've actually found with some coffee shops you can actually have a bit of a niche by serving good coffee.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, which is as funny as it sounds. But yeah, that's for us, especially as players, that's a bit of a hidden gem for us.
No, fantastic. And what would be your food recommendation from Myrtles then?
That's a good one. All of the sweet treats, I tend to stay pretty clear from. But some of their toasties are really nice, and they do. I had a pulled pork, barbecued pulled pork toasty a couple of weeks ago, and that was really nice.
That sounds nice. It's lunchtime when we're recording this.
Yeah.
It's making me hungry thinking about this. So fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant. Now, obviously, you're kind of an outsider from Coventry, all the way over from Ipswich. But how would you describe the local area to outsiders?
I'd say I think for me the city centre of Coventry, I think, is actually I personally think is quite a nice, like, developing area. Like, obviously, like we spoke earlier, there's roadworks everywhere, but I can see like some of the stuff they're trying to do with the buildings in the city, in the ring road, I actually think look quite cool. They look quite modern. Obviously, there's still some of those really old, like, historic buildings in there, but some of the new bits they're trying to do, I think, look quite modern. Obviously, the bits with the Commonwealth Games and the City of Culture last year, you can see, like, looks like there's some quite exciting, like, modern things going on. And then if you venture, I'd say, anywhere sort of 10 miles outside of the city centre, like we just spoke about Leamington, like, there's some really nice kind of country, greener, more open areas that are really nice to go out. Whether it's you want to live there for a bit more of a quieter lifestyle, or go out on dog walks and that kind of thing, they're a bit quieter and more peaceful. But the actual city centre, I could probably see as some quite nice sort of developing things going on in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of towards the train station at the moment in terms of kind of work that's going on around there, and the wave, the swimming pool that kind of opened however many years ago now. That used to just be a very dull 70s office block. I think it was a benefits office, and it's been demolished, and it's now this kind of very unusual building. So I
need to go there. Actually, I keep hearing about the wave. I need to go there.
Yeah, I need to go there as well and stuff, and all good with that. Okay, in terms of Coventry Rugby Club and their initiatives, what's the kind of the best way of finding out about all of these initiatives and things?
I'd say most of it hopefully is pretty easily online. Dan Lewis, our media guy, he joined us in January. He's wicked. He's real hot on the social medias. We get a good few posts out daily. So online, our website's very up to date, and any kind of events or anything that's going on is published pretty quickly on the website. And then if you're kind of bigger into your social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the usuals, we're pretty active on there as well.
No, fantastic. Well, it's been great having you on today, Toby. We'll put all kind of the links into the show description, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Yeah, spot on. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye.